Hello and welcome on into the Wise Guys podcast. It happened. It finally happened. 3 days before the NFL draft, Aaron Rodgers was actually traded to the New York Jets for the 13th overall pick. Now, the Jets will be getting the 15th pick from the Packers, plus the 42nd pick this year, the 207th pick, which is a six-rounder, and a conditional 2024 second if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of his snaps or more. Brandon, a lot of people are saying the Jets got fleeced. Did they get fleeced for acquiring the four-time NFL MVP?
Well, hello, John. How are you? First and foremost.
I'm doing good, Brandon. I'm excited tonight because we have a lot of news to cover. Ime Udoka going to Houston, Aaron Rodgers. I'm talking at both sides of my mouth, but I'm doing all right today.
Yeah, we'll start off with the big football news, the news that we've been waiting for, the bombshell to be dropped. It was dropped by one Adam Schefter, still the GOAT in the news cycle of football, all things NFL. Adam Schefter, shout out Shefty. But yeah, Aaron Rodgers is a New York Jet. I don't think any of us are surprised, John. But to answer that question you asked and why I was a little shocked when you asked it, did the Jets get fleeced? I don't. I mean, it depends. I guess it depends. I guess there's a small section of the audience that believes Aaron Rodgers is washed. He's done. What we saw last year is more indicative of what we will see in the future from one Mr. Aaron Rodgers. But I think a majority of people, me included, are on the side of, yeah, that was just a down year. He was dealing with upwards of 4 injuries at one point throughout that season. One to his throwing hand, and he had the lack of chemistry with his receivers. And whether you want to blame that on him for not showing up to OTAs and showing up late or whatever the fact, but the fact is that he didn't have the chemistry. And that'll be important to see and interesting to see when Aaron Rodgers shows up to the New York Jets facility, right? Will he skip those optional OTAs? Will he be there for the mini camps, et cetera, et cetera? That will be very interesting to see. No, the Jets did not get fleeced because I believe that first off, when we talked about this, I don't know, maybe a month ago at this point, a month and a half ago, and I was pretty adamant that if the Packers don't get a pretty damn good haul for Rodgers, they will end up getting fleeced, and that's what I tweeted instantly. The Packers got fleeced. Now, I don't know how people in the media are trying to spin it that they got 2 first-round picks for Rodgers. No, they didn't. They swapped a first, okay? That's not getting a new pick. That's just swapping. And then they
Moving up
got
2
one.
spots.
They got one that can be a first-round. But now, do I believe it will become one? Yes. But it's football. It's a contact sport. Anything can happen. And we have seen Aaron Rodgers is injury-prone. He's older. Okay, he just dealt with 4 injuries last year. He might miss time. So when I tweeted they didn't get how you trade an all-time great quarterback, to me, a top 5 quarterback of all time, and who I still believe is the second best quarterback in this league when healthy. How you trade that guy and all you get in return, you don't get a true, let me emphasize, true first-round pick is beyond me. Beyond me. Okay? Because I'm going to tell you like this. The Jets believe they are getting a Rodgers that will be at MVP level, right? Jets fans believe that. Why else would you? Let me pose it to you this way, John. Why would the Jets make this trade? Because they believe they can win a Super Bowl, right? Yeah. So if you believe you're going to win a Super Bowl and you're willing to trade for Aaron Rodgers, it means you believe Aaron Rodgers is going to play an elite level. So again, I do believe Aaron Rodgers will be playing at elite level. I do expect him to go back to his MVP form, maybe not winning the MVP, but 30, 35 plus touchdowns, less than 10 interceptions, 65+% completion percentage, 4,000 plus yards. I expect all that from Aaron Rodgers and then some. So I'm so disappointed. The Packers to me were in the catbird seat. They fumbled the bag. They got fleeced. How you don't get multiple first round picks is beyond me. Congrats to the Jets. The Jets front office. I tip my hat to them. They did a great job. But the Packers, man, I just seriously do not understand how this is a success in a lot of people's books. I don't.
I do think it was a fine return for the Packers because he got a top 45 pick as well in the deal in this year's draft. But ultimately, for the Jets, part of why you acquire Rodgers is because not only do you think he can be closer to his pre 2022 level, you also think you had the team to put him in a position to win a Super Bowl. I've made this point before, and the fact that people forget the last time Aaron Rodgers had a top five defense, he won a Super Bowl in 2010, is what is really beyond me. Because Aaron, for years, has been failed in the playoffs by that defense. Now, could he have played better in some moments? Sure, as can any quarterback playing in Green Bay. So, given he played in the cold for so long, I think he's built to play in New York. But at the same time, they have a more developed receiver in Garrett Wilson, who last year, with three different quarterbacks, had 1,100 yards in his first season out of the Ohio State. You put alongside him McCole Hardman. They added in a couple of other pieces, most notably from the Packers, Alan Lazard, who I think's a wide receiver 3. They kept Corey Davis in this trade, and they also have Denzel Mims, who had a good rookie season. I think in the draft, not having the second round pick means in the third round, they're going to take one more receiver to just add a little bit more talent on the outside. But ultimately for the Jets, this was a win because you also kept a top 15 pick. So you can invest into that right tackle position. Can Max Mitchell be a solid enough right? Maybe. But I think for New York, after adding Laken Tomlinson and Elijah Vera Tucker, who missed a good amount of last season, they're really just a tackle away plus the quarterback. I don't think Aaron Rodgers with a bad offensive line is leading the Jets out the AFC. But can Aaron Rodgers with Breece Hall playing at a high level, a top 5 defense, and a good offensive line go to the Super Bowl? I think the answer to that question is yes. The Packers had talent defensively last year, but they're a poorly coached unit. I think Robert Saleh is a pretty good. I think he's a pretty good head coach. And last year, after their 7-win start, the ultimate downfall had little to do with him and mostly to do with the worst quarterback play in the NFL. And so, given his pedigree coming out of San Francisco, I'm pretty confident that defense will get better. Sauce Gardner was arguably the best corner in the league as a rookie. Quentin Williams was one of the most absurdly good defensive ends this year. And then you add in John Franklin Myers, Carl Lawson coming off injury. And they also keep in a first round pick from last year and Jermaine Johnson, who people thought they would have had to include in this trade. So you don't give up any players. You give up maybe 2 second round picks. Worst case scenario, if Rodgers stays healthy, a first and a second. That to me is the price you pay for a top 3 quarterback of all time, even if it means it's 1 or 2 seasons. Because Aaron Rodgers at his worst last year would have still been enough for the Jets to win 13 games and the AFC East. Aaron Rodgers at his best might be winning the Jets their first Super Bowl in my lifetime. So that is why, to me, the narrative that they lost this trade is a little bit misguided and somewhat biased from Jet haters.
100%. And I might get some I was thinking about, I had one thought about like this as a Patriots fan. People might be looking at me and be like, oh, you're just hating on the trade because you're a Patriots fan. You're grumpy. Aaron Rodgers is, in your division. No, not at all. That's bullshit. I'm an objective Patriots fan. I can be honest and all that bag of good stuff. I tip my cap to the Jets organization and the front office. Congrats on making this move. I'm literally saying you fleeced the Packers. You got an insane return for not giving up that much. So mazel tov to them. For the Packers, it's just a train wreck in my opinion. And see, like I said, the Jets are hoping when they make this trade, they're hoping they get MVP Rodgers, lead them to a Super Bowl and win a Super Bowl. If that's the case, they completely won on their side of the trade, right? On the Packers side, they're believing Rodgers is done. He's washed. He's going to be too much drama for New York, and he's going to retire after 1 year and be out the door. If that's the case, the Packers obviously won this trade, right? But again, I'm on the camp that Rodgers is not done. He's not washed. He's going to perform at a pretty high level. And to those people that think like, oh, he's done, he's washed. I need to remind you people, right, that not even 2 years ago,
Need you remind people that in 2 of the last 3 years, Aaron Rodgers won an MVP. Part of the deal, of course, from New York is that you gave up the first round value and 2 second-round picks. But I really do think people are looking at last year where, as BC said, Aaron Rodgers was not healthy with a bad offensive line and no time to gel with those wide receivers. My prediction for 2023 is that Aaron Rodgers throws 35 touchdowns. We'll go 14 of which to Garrett Wilson. He plays 14 games. I don't know if he'll play all 17. And in the games he plays, the Jets go 10-4. The ultimate downside here for New York is that they're in the worst division far and away in the NFL. And I don't know if I should be looking at my camera or myself here. I guess it's probably better to look at myself. Because if you have a top 3 quarterback, maybe the greatest regular season quarterback besides Peyton Manning in NFL history, it's hard to say that the Jets won't at least be in the upper half of the AFC next season. This puts you firmly into the camp of, look, half the conference has an elite quarterback damn near, at least 7 or 8 of them, if you're now including Rodgers into the fold. So it feels like they're finally coming to the gunfight prepared and not with a knife. And that's what it kind of was last year, Zach Wilson.
yeah, apologies. So what I was saying is, for the people that say Aaron Rodgers is done, he is washed. Like, need I remind you people that not like only 2 years ago this man was an MVP, back-to-back MVP, I should say. And I shouldn't have to bring up cases like, I just can't. When I thought about this, when I was thinking about like people saying Aaron Rodgers is washed, and me thinking about these two scenarios. So, Peyton Manning, horrific neck injury, was told by doctors he might not even be able to throw the football ever again. Not even 2 years later, John, that man won an MVP and was in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady, after 2019, people were saying he's done. He's washed. He's too old. He needs to go home. Left New England. Went to Tampa Bay, the losingest franchise in NFL history at the time. In a pandemic year, not being able to work out with his teammates, communicate with his teammates in person, gain chemistry with his teammates, his coaches, et cetera, and on a torn freaking MCL, goes to the Super Bowl, wins, the first team ever to win a Super Bowl on their home turf, and wins the Super Bowl MVP. So people saying Aaron Rodgers is done, I give you 2 cases of Peyton and Brady. Rodgers is not done. Now, you want to have the discussion, will the Jets win a Super Bowl? Will they get to the Super Bowl? That's a whole nother discussion. I'm talking specifically about Aaron Rodgers' play, his football play. He's not done, guys. He's not.
And you know what, Brandon? Well, I think in the now this makes the Jets much better. I also think for Zach Wilson, a quarterback who was pretty horrific last season, this is the right opportunity for him to develop. Because to have a rookie quarterback get thrown into the fire without a veteran mentor, expected to lead the team to a at least 7 to 10 win season, is a little bit unrealistic when he was coming off knee injury and never really got to sit behind somebody else to run your offense. I look at a guy like Alex Smith, of course, who it took him years of just being thrown out to the gauntlet. But for every Alex Smith that overcomes that, they almost always have a offensive mind who builds around what they do best. And I feel like for Zach to get to sit behind a first ballot Hall of Famer, it almost doesn't matter who that mentor is as the coach because you get a first ballot Hall of Famer to sit behind. That's exactly why I'm higher on Jordan Love, because if you sit behind someone who's wildly successful, you'll see their habits, their decision-making process, how they run the offense. And so for all the people out there that have completely forgotten about Zach Wilson, I said to myself, he's going to have a second chance one day in the NFL. And I believe the same way we saw Geno Smith after a year sitting behind Hall of Famers revive his career, we could see something similar with Zach because so much of the NFL is learning from the right people and getting patience. So for New York, don't think we're done seeing the last number 2.
I don't know why you had to sneak that in there. I don't know.
It's a pretty big, notable part of this.
So
In
who
my
who
eyes.
are the two? You used two examples, right? You used Alex Smith and you used Geno Smith. Listen, man, these things don't happen, right? Like they don't happen every time. They're like once in a very big while. The chance of Zach Wilson being a starting quarterback in the NFL are very low, slim to none. To be honest with you, I'm being serious. It's not high. Listen, we've seen this before, the story of a quarterback, and he's 2 years, right? It was 2 years, not even 2 years fully. We've
He did
seen
get hurt
guys
in both years.
we've seen guys get thrown for less. Josh Rosen. I just don't. Yes, this is the last we've seen of Zach Wilson. It's not going to work. They would be the best bet for the Green Bay Packers is not for Zach Wilson. It's to go out and draft a quarterback maybe in the second, third round, and try and hope for that guy. But it's not Zach Wilson. I'm telling you, it's not.
I don't know. If let's say I started podcasting for the first time, right? When
Mm-hmm.
we first started the show, I did not know at all really how to talk football properly and really, I guess, articulate my ideas, my thought process well. So if you put me on, let's say, an NFL podcast with 50,000 subscribers, right? An audience that knows football, and I'll get torn apart, right? I feel like for a football player, and especially a quarterback where it's built off confidence and kind of just processing to read a defense quickly, you would get torn apart as well. But what if you gave me a year working in that environment behind the scenes, and then you integrate me in slowly but surely? What if Zach Wilson gets a start or two at the end of the season, the way Geno did in New York, and he gets to sit behind Eli Manning, Philip Rivers, and then Russell Wilson? That's 3 borderline Hall of Fame quarterbacks right there that started for over a decade each. I think that makes a huge difference for a quarterback who didn't get even a Joe Flacco when he was a rookie. So that's why I'm a little bit optimistic about Wilson. I see the opportunity for a guy who was a top 3 pick. And let's not mistake this. Zach Wilson was a really good prospect. It's just the curve from BYU competition to the NFL is too steep. But now he got those growing pains out the way we saw Steve Young even with the Buccaneers in his first couple of seasons. Now you get to learn from that guy and you can progress, hopefully with the opportunity to start a couple of games this year, maybe 2 or 3. And that's why it's notable because the Jets do have to evaluate their options in 2 or 3 years when Rodgers will most likely be done at 42, 43 years old. And they might have that guy already developing in-house.
Yeah, looking at Aaron Rodgers' contract right now, I'm pulling it up. So they've got they've got a potential out after this year, is from what I'm looking in the contract in 2024. So I guess if things do go downhill, they can. I mean, Rodgers doesn't even have to say, I'm going to leave. The Jets can basically say, yeah, we no longer need your services anymore. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't expect Rodgers to walk away after 1 year, even if it, goes up in flames, because it's just there's too much money left on the table.
And there's also no better option on the market either, right? Like now Derek Carr is gone, paying Lamar's not appetizing. You have to commit to Lamar. I think they're going to have 2 years with Rodgers to contend. What's your expectation over under for the New York Jets? Do they go to one AFC championship game with Aaron Rodgers? So the over under here will be 0.5.
Do they go to one AFC championship game? Yeah, I'll give them that. Yeah.
This is a tough question because it depends on what the offensive line looks like. If Mekhi Becton's hurt and Elijah Vera Tucker's not healthy, the answer to the question to me is no, because then we're going to have the same issue in Green Bay where he's throwing to Garrett Wilson, but he's on the ground. But you know what, though? With the 15th overall pick, There are a lot of really good tackles on the board. There's Paris Johnson. There's a kid out of Georgia. There's about 4 or 5 tackles in this class, and maybe you can move one to left tackle. They've already got a good offensive line on the interior. As a toss-up, it's a really good question. One of my best over-unders yet. I'm going to go with yes. I think they do make one. I don't think they go to an actual Super Bowl because, you had the boogeyman in the conference, and also Joe Burrow, whose jersey you're wearing now.
Not
I
Joe
love the
Burrow.
Burrow jersey.
Bobby Boucher. But yeah, I just listen. I say yes because it's Aaron Rodgers, and I respect his greatness. He's an all-timer. It's just I can't go farther than that, and I can't even say that they'll win it because he's not Tom. Tom is just somebody for me. I don't. Maybe it's because I'm a Patriots fan and I watched him up close and personal basically for the last decade plus, but it was just a different feeling for me. Where every year, no matter what, I truly thought we were actual contenders.
Right.
And with Rodgers, it's not that I don't think that, it's just that he hasn't won enough for me to put him in that status. And I think Brady is kind of in rarefied air when it comes to that, where it really didn't matter. You kind of knew that they were always legit contenders. So yeah, that's the only reason I bring it back. And also the AFC is stacked with quarterback talent. It's literally an embarrassment of riches. And the AFC East is going to be, if not the toughest, one of the toughest divisions in football this upcoming year.
And last but not least, the Jets have the least proven coach in that division between Belichick, Sean McDermott, and McDaniel.
And the Wonder Kid.
Yep. That's a pretty tough conference, not just in terms of
John, that is a great point. He is looked at honestly as the guy that, Sean McDermott has gained the respect because of where the Bills have gone. Bill Belichick is Bill Belichick. We don't have to speak on that. And Mike McDaniel proved to a lot of people that he is an exceptional offensive play caller.
And now they have Vic Fangio to run the defense. The meatballs and spaghetti is going to be ridiculous. And this is coming from somebody that actually thinks very highly of the Jets head coach, but it really comes down to you have to prove it and not lose 6 straight games to end your season. That right there is going to be another factor in this equation. Anything else about the Rodgers front before we talk about some sad but also positive and more positive NBA news?
No. Rodgers to the Jets. It's going to be interesting. He's not going to be wearing number 12. He's going to be going back to the college days and wear number 8.
The guy's trying to look like Kenny Pickett, dude.
Ocho. Oh, come on. No.
I'll tell you one thing. Kenny Pickett's going to a Super Bowl before Aaron Rodgers.
Okay. We can move on to the next news.
One bit of news that was really upsetting is that De'Aaron Fox is doubtful for Game 5 out of
he's doubtful?
nowhere. He is doubtful, not ruled out after a finger injury, which we never knew about. It's a fractured finger.
And I was thinking
myself, is it his shooting finger? Because I remember
I think it said left.
Huge. It is, yeah. I'm working my way up to it. He hit an absolute dagger with 10, 12 seconds left after Steph tried to call a timeout. The Warriors did not have. He pulled a Chris Webber. Fortunately, Harrison Barnes missed what would have been a game winner. Could you imagine? Here's the thing. For the first time, Harrison Barnes coming up clutch for the Golden State Warriors. How about that? That's amazing. That's amazing. But De'Aaron Fox, a fractured left finger. Look, Brian, De'Aaron Fox is there in the company of John Morant, Trae Young, elite point guards that raise your floor, but in the playoffs are unstoppable. The Warriors have Draymond Green, maybe the best defender since Ben Wallace, Andrew Wiggins, who has been splendid on that end, Gary Payton, who doesn't look right coming off his illness, but that right there is 3 elite defenders. And De'Aaron Fox has arguably been the better and more impactful star in this series with Steph Curry on the opposite end. Now, there's a little bit of inexperience with Fox. We've noticed that going at Draymond one-on-one. I felt like he was kind of pressing a little bit in the fourth quarter, not letting the gun come to him a little bit. Same went from Malik Monk. But for the Kings, this is really depressing news. There's no other way to put it.
I agree. But the one bright spot is that they don't play till Wednesday, so they got a little bit more time off for Game 5 back in Sacramento. But yeah, it's disappointing. I think he'll play. If I got to be honest with you, I don't know how bad the injury is. It might just come up to pain tolerance, and if it's up to pain tolerance, I do think De'Aaron Fox will be out there. You just shoot him up with something, he'll be on the court.
And he'll be. Here's the thing: Domantas Sabonis this year has been playing with an avulsion fracture in his thumb. Fox will be playing with a protective brace on his left index finger. I do think as well he plays in Game 5, but just for as great as Fox is and as tough as shit as he is, there is an element of trying to protect that. And from a pain tolerance standpoint, I mean, Draymond's going to attack you. They're going to bump you. They're going to play tougher on you if you have that injury. And for the Kings, man, I think you saw this in Game 4. Domantas Sabonis was, to many people, the better player and the more impactful player for Sacramento because he comes in, he makes you a near 50-win team. But in the playoffs, against like defense like the Warriors, they just let him take the mid-range jumper, and he does not have that in his game right now. So his tools, his impact that was in the regular season, getting going with Kevin Huerter and DHOs. Do you know what Kevin Huerter's 4 of 24 from 3 in the series? Those two guys, who are the second and third best offensive players of the Kings, have really been okay, well below expected. Huerter has been terrible offensively. Now he got some defensive plays, he got some floaters, but for Sacramento to not have those two guys clicking while Fox is going to be probably limited, that right there ends the series. And that's why I had a feeling going to Game 4 the Warriors would win and move into Game 5, probably lose and win in 7 in Sacramento.
Yeah.
But now I feel a lot more confident in my pick that the Warriors, man, I don't think they lose this. If De'Aaron is not 100% and they lose this series still, oh man, that would be quite something.
Yeah, I'm sticking with the Warriors in 7, but 100%. If the Warriors are able to steal Game 5, they'll win. They're winning when they go back to Golden State in 6. But speaking of Sabonis, yeah, this guy. I mean, for how talented he is, this mother effer needs to learn how to make a goddamn jump shot from the mid range, a free throw shot, basically. That's what they're giving him. This is ridiculous. You look like Dwight. I mean, that's how you guard Dwight Howard. Sabonis? I mean, you can't be called Baby Jokic and not be able to make a consistent mid range jump shot. That's ridiculous.
Jokic is making that shot like 8 times, 7
easily.
times.
Yeah, and he's gonna snicker down the way. You left me open. You think you know who I am? Like Sabonis, this is ridiculous, man. You need to. It's just been bad. I mean, you got to be able to make those jump shots. That's bad. Because we see De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox is not a good 3-point shooter, and he's been able to step up in this series and knock down those shots, especially in the crunch time. So, Sabonis, you need to step up. You're the second best player on this team, and you're not acting like it right now. Shooting wise.
You want to know something?
And defensively too.
I think Kevon Looney has played at a pretty similar level because Looney has come along a long way as a decision maker. And that's why the Warriors are able to stagger his and Draymond's minutes, because what makes Draymond valuable offensively is his playmaking in short pick and roll, 4-on-3 opportunities, making the right play, finding a shooter or a cutter. If Looney is bringing that same exact value while getting, I don't know, 20 rebounds every other game, then yeah, or this last game was 14, 6 assists. He's had a 7-assist game. Then you can have Draymond come off the bench and bring that energy. You know, I felt like Draymond just had a spark to him after missing Game 3. And you felt that on Fox nice and early. And as the steely veteran, he was getting Fox's grill. He was annoying him. And that is the Draymond role. There was definitely no offensive scoring from Draymond. He finished 3 of 14 in this game.
Oh my God, he took way too many shots.
He's going to finish better moving forward. But there is a impact that he brings off the bench with Dante DiVincenzo that makes their 7-man unit truly the most well-rounded in the NBA. And this is coming from somebody that has the Denver Nuggets going to the finals this season. But let me tell you something. When Andrew Wiggins is playing as well as he did last year in the postseason, Kevon Looney is still getting better offensively. Jordan Poole is finding his rhythm, getting to the rim, getting downhill, even when the 3-point shot's not falling, scoring 20. And Steph Curry is being the best offensive floor raiser and ceiling raiser. Let me repeat that. He's not the best floor raiser offensively, but he is the best ceiling raiser in the NBA. Oh yeah, we've also got Klay Thompson too, who hit the most threes in his career this season. This offense is truly unstoppable when it's clicking, and it feels like they're starting to finally turn that corner. Who we saw all year long, they had the best starting lineup by net rating, and yeah, man, this is something no one wants to see. This Warriors team going back to the finals.
I mean, listen, Klay might have had a high point total game, but he still hasn't had a Klay Thompson type game. And what I mean by that is like 8 3-pointers in a game. Because when that happens, when those start falling, dear Lord, it is like an avalanche. And Steph hasn't even had one of those games yet either, where he's made 7 or 8 3-pointers. I think he made 6 was the highest for this series. I'm not, but yeah, I mean, and shout out, it's Damian, right? Damian Mitchell for the Kings, or Davion. I'm not going to get your name wrong again because you've been playing outstanding defense on Steph Curry, my friend. You keep doing that. You've earned a spot on a championship roster playing like that. He's doing an incredible job. I mean, listen, there's another guy on that team that was made famous for his defense on Steph Curry. His name is Matthew Dellavedova. So Davion Mitchell can do the same thing here.
Now that almost killed Dellavedova. He was sent to the hospital after exhaustion, dehydration.
I can't wait. I do listen selfishly. I also do just so much want to see the Warriors and Lakers in round 2. I just so badly want to see that, and I don't want to see the Kings. And no disrespect to the Kings or the Grizzlies, but I just don't want to see either of those teams ruin it. I want Lakers and Warriors in a 7-game series in the playoffs. So badly do I want that.
Yeah, that would be one hell of a matchup. Steph versus LeBron. And Davion Mitchell is an NCAA champion for a reason. Off night is going to keep on coming. And he was pretty disappointing in the regular season this year, but if there's one thing he will bring, it's energy and on-ball defense, like very few other guards in the game. When he's making shots, is a starting point guard to me. The issue is how consistent is on the floor. Now, let me tell you something, Brent. You know, like many people, I don't imagine you're watching too much of the Houston Rockets this season. And there's a reason for that. After trading James Harden and letting go of Mike D'Antoni, they've been probably the most dysfunctional team in the NBA. And I don't think that falls on the head coach necessarily. I think at large that goes to ownership, who made some questionable decisions, some of which were penny pinching. But when you bring in a head coach that just brought the Celtics to the finals for the first time in 14 years 1 year ago, having the second best in-season turnaround in the regular season in recent memory, I think you got yourself a pretty good one. If there's one thing Ime Udoka brings to a locker room, it is accountability, and maybe more importantly, it is competitiveness. Because in Boston, he maximized almost every single player on that roster. Early in the year, that meant calling them out in press conferences when he was an unproven head coach. But by the end of the season, every single player in that locker room brought into what his defensive principles were. It was a switching style scheme with really good athletes, and Robert Williams playing the Rudy Gobert role. Off the ball, free safety, blowing up plays around the rim. And let me tell you something, BC. While no one was watching the Rockets this last season, they have a ton of defensive talent. They took Jabari Smith with the 3rd overall pick, and there were games last year where 19-year-old defending Giannis, he was showing a lot of really good physical traits. He has a motor, and at 6'11", 6'10", he can be one of the best, I think, wing defenders in the league that is switchable and can protect the rim. They've also got Tari Eason, who they use a first-round pick on. He is an absolute lightning rod on defense. They've got Kenyon Martin's son, Kenyon Martin Jr. Much like Tari, he is a competitor that is super athletic at 6'6". And then to go along with all of those guys, they've got Usman Garuba, who is a first-round pick exclusively for his versatile defense. I think this Rocket team is going to get themselves one of the most impressive young coaches in the league this year, because all Ime Udoka has done from his time in San Antonio to Boston is maximize defensive talent. And dude, the Rockets have a good amount of it already. Not to mention, offensively, they've got Jalen Green, who definitely needs to improve his feel for the game and his shot selection. But when you have him and a passer like Alperen Sengun, who's basically Domantas Sabonis. He's got some mid-range game in the making. I think offensively as well, they're going to have a lot more structure and a lot more flow than they did with Steven Silas in the fold.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head defensively, because that's all I've heard from a lot of people. The NBA world is the NBA community is the Rockets more energy, but energy and effort. Really, I mean, defense. I would say 75% of defense is just effort, or something, give or take that. But and that's what I think. I heard a lot from the Rockets is that the young team just lacked effort and energy. They weren't willing to put in the work, and I think Ime Udoka is a perfect guy to fix that. Boston kind of had similar to that. Obviously not Marcus Smart, but some other players on the team, and he was willing to get them to buy in defensively. And then we saw the leaps they made from the January on, where they went to the NBA Finals. So for him to the Houston Rockets, I mean, I tweeted it. He's got a lot of work to do. He really does. This team is a long ways away. But this is hiring Ime Udoka is a great start, because he is somebody who's a no nonsense, no bullshit kind of guy. So let's hope he can change up the attitudes real quick. I kind of think of the Deion Sanders quote when he walked into Colorado. I'm bringing my baggage with me. And Ime is basically like the same thing. Like I'm coming in, and if any of y'all don't want to buy in, guess what? Here's the door. Don't let it hit you on the way out. I feel, and that's a great mentality to have for Ime and for this Houston Rockets. That's the best way to get these young kids that have been kind of prepped up and told that they're all that in a bag of potato chips their entire life. Sometimes they need a little metaphoric smack in the mouth, and maybe Ime is the guy to do that. But they are a long ways away. I want that to be reiterated. A lot of work to do, long ways away.
And the good news is they have $60 million in practical cap space this year, and a pick that's projected to be in the top 4 already. So you have a lot of resources, but also a lot of pressure, because, Brandon, when they made the Russell Westbrook trade, they gave up 2 first-round picks in 2021 and in 2024 that were both top 4 protected. The 2021 pick they got because they tanked so hard they got it. In 2024, they're probably not going to have that opportunity because they've already been one of the worst teams in the league for 3 straight seasons. So I think for a team that already has a lot of young talent, are they a far, far, far way to go? No doubt. They have to make some progress because they've made none so far. And they've been rebuilding for now 3 years. But this is the second phase of this team's rebuild. And I'm pretty confident in a Western Conference that is older, has teams like the Clippers, Warriors, Lakers a little bit younger now, but a lot of steely veterans that missed time, kind of like the Oklahoma City Thunder this season, who got a lot of buy-in by Mark Daigneault. These Houston Rockets are going to start to realize their potential and get the most out of their young star. That being said, yeah, this is a challenge that Ime Udoka is going to have to overcome, because he doesn't have Jason Tatum. And Jason Tatum, when he got him, was a top 15 player in the game. Yep. Jaylen Brown, to me, is currently speaking a negative. So it's going to be interesting to see how Udoka is able to not just develop the defense, but also take a player that is raw but really talented and make him a high-level shooting guard that is trying and actually succeeding in driving elite level offense when he's just on the floor, not team offense. But can you score a lot of points and get the offense, your teammates, in a state of flow when you're out there? And that's going to be a pretty. I'm going to watch the Rockets with a little more excitement and enthusiasm next season now, opposed to banging my head against the wall.
Yeah, you can.
One last thing. Giannis Antetokounmpo is back, Brent.
Back.
And let me tell you something. We have a lot of Heat fans that are very optimistic about their chances to win this series with Giannis off the floor. But now that he took about 4 or 5 days off to return for Game 4 versus the Heat, yeah, I think this is where his season ends, buddy. This is the end of the run. I'm impressed. I had the Heat getting swept up until Giannis got hurt in Game 1. Look, they've shot the ball very well, uncharacteristically high. And I feel bad for you guys, because once he comes back into the lineup, Miami is going to is going to feel the effects of that, and they're going to start to shoot poorly. Duncan Robinson's going to take that step back like we've seen all season long, and we're going to move into this offseason with Miami being the first one to exit.
Yeah, there's not much for me. I'm not one of those fans that are being optimistic. I'm very objective about this. I'm not very confident in my Miami Heat. I'm just kind of here along for the ride right now. That's pretty much it. Still rooting for them. Go Miami. I'll get excited if they win, but I got to be real and I got to be honest.
Bucks and 6.
Depends. It honestly depends on how Giannis looks. It really does. Because if that back is really bad, because Miami is a team that plays physical, they bump around with you. And listen, he might take a shot, and it's just really all depends on that. That's really what it depends on.
Yeah, that's a very good point because
his style of play, it's not like he shies away from contact. He kind of invites it.
Exactly. So with all that out the way, that'll wrap up this reaction video. I want to thank everybody who watched and also commented. JSN to the Packers by Jay Baines. Let me tell you something. If Jordan Love gets JSN next season, oh man, that Packers offense is going to be fun to watch. You've already got Christian Watson. You put Romeo Doubs as your third or fourth wide receiver. They're going to be taking flight real quick.
I don't know about that, but yeah, I did see that. Mina Kynes brought that up, that going from 15 to 13, it jumps the New England Patriots, who are obviously in want of a receiver. So it gets the Packers in a good shot. But yeah, if you watch this video live or on the replay, give us a like, subscribe, share with your friends and family, let them know about us, and can't wait to watch some more. Actually, my Miami Heat are about to be on in the next 15 minutes, so enjoy that.
Thank you guys for watching. As always, till next time.
Stay classy.